Hello there, I'm Corel Painter Master Rutten, and in this video I'll share 5 tips for making the most of Corel Painter in your Wacom tablet. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 1. Optimizing the pressure sensitivity of your pen. Wacom pens have an amazing range of pressure sensitivity, which allows an artist to draw thick lines by pressing down firmly, or thin lines by pressing down lightly with the pen. In addition to varying the width of a line, artists can also vary the opacity of brush strokes as well. This makes for a drawing experience that feels natural and intuitive. Not all artists use the same amount of pressure while drawing. For this reason, both the Wacom control panel and Corel Painter allow an artist to adjust the sensitivity of the pen for a lighter or a heavier touch. Let's start by adjusting the global pen pressure in the Wacom control panel. Under the Pen tab, drag the tip feel slider towards soft or firm depending on how you like to draw. I tend to press down very firmly when I draw, so I set my pressure sensitivity one notch towards firm. This makes it much easier for me to draw a thick to thin line and vary my brush opacity. You can test the current pressure setting by pressing down with your pen. You'll see the pressure slider move as you press harder. Once you've chosen a setting, try making a few strokes in Corel Painter using the scratchboard tool found in the Artist Favorites category. If you're still not satisfied with the pressure setting, open the Wacom control panel and adjust the pressure until it feels natural to draw a thick to thin line. In most cases, a global adjustment to pen pressure in the Wacom tablet control panel is sufficient, but if you want maximum control over your brush strokes, you can adjust the brush calibration in Corel Painter. Let's try that. We'll click on Window, Brush Control Panels, Brush Calibration. This opens a palette with sliders that let you fine-tune your pressure settings. Rather than move the sliders, it may be easier to draw a pressure curve with your pen, but we'll come back to that shortly. First, you want to make sure that Enable Brush Calibration is checked. You can use this checkbox to enable and disable calibration for a brush. Let's go ahead and calibrate a brush. I'll choose the scratchboard tool again, and I'll make sure Enable Brush Calibration is checked. Next, I'll want to define the pressure curve. I could use the sliders, but it'll be easier to draw the curve with my pen. To do this, click on the icon in the bottom right of the palette. This opens a window with a little sketch pad that you can draw on. Draw a stroke the way you would if you were drawing or painting with that brush. For example, when I'm inking with the scratchboard tool, I like my brush to be able to make a wide range of thick to thin line widths. So the type of stroke I draw will start out with the lightest pressure I intend to use, and then it'll gradually increase to the maximum pressure I intend to use for that brush. When I'm finished drawing my stroke, I'll close the calibration window and then I'll give the brush a test to see if it works as expected. It may take some experimenting to find the optimal pressure curve. For the most part, the brushes in Painter are already well optimized, so you only need to do this for a few select brushes if you think it's necessary to get more control over your brush strokes. Here's another example. When I'm using brushes that only vary the opacity and not the stroke width, a more subtle transition from light to firm pressure is more desirable, so I can build up opacity slowly and evenly. In this example, I'm using a chalk brush. I don't want a lot of opacity to completely cover my paper grain, so it makes sense to set this brush so that it takes a lot of pressure to build up to full opacity. I'll calibrate this brush by pressing down very firmly with my pen, and I won't vary the pen pressure at all. This ensures my strokes are always very light while using this chalk brush. If I click back on my scratchboard tool, it's retained its own unique calibration setting. If your pen has an eraser, you can also customize the pressure sensitivity for that as well. Take some time to optimize your pen pressure and it'll make your drawing and painting feel much more natural.